I never imagined that a simple conversation could turn my entire life upside down, but here I am, sitting alone in my apartment, staring at the same walls that once felt like home. My name is Emily, I'm 29 years old, and until recently I thought I understood love. I thought I knew what it meant to truly care for someone, to be honest, and to build a life together. But apparently I didn't. I never realized that my own doubts and selfish decisions could lead to something so permanent. We had been together for 3 years, and for most of that time, I genuinely believed we were happy. Mark was kind, patient, and the kind of person everyone wishes they could have. He never raised his voice, never demanded more than he could give, and he laughed at my quirks even when they annoyed him. I admired him quietly, sometimes even envied his calm confidence. I convinced myself that because he was steady and loving, he would always forgive me, always wait, always accept me, no matter how reckless or thoughtless I became. I was wrong. It started on a quiet Friday evening. We were sitting on the couch after dinner, just talking about our week, when I said it. The words felt casual at first, almost like a joke. Maybe we should just break up, I muttered, half smiling, thinking he'd brush it off. I expected a laugh, maybe a gentle tease, perhaps a question asking if I was serious. But Mark didn't respond like that at all. He stared at me quietly, his eyes unreadable, and for a moment, I felt a flicker of panic. I don't know, I continued, trying to soften the blow. Maybe we're not right for each other. I expected him to protest, to assure me that everything would be fine, but instead, he nodded slowly, a small, almost imperceptible motion that seemed to confirm something I didn't want to hear. Okay, he said calmly. If that's what you want. I laughed nervously, thinking he was joking, that he was just testing me, but it wasn't a test. It was the beginning of the end. That night, instead of trying to convince him to stay, I talked about my frustrations. Small things I had ignored for months but suddenly felt too heavy to carry. I complained about our routines, our little disagreements, the way he sometimes didn't notice the effort I put in. Every complaint I voiced seemed justified in my mind, but I didn't notice how heavy it was on him, how quietly he absorbed it without anger, without resistance. By the next morning something had shifted. Mark was distant, polite but cold. He answered questions with short sentences, avoided eye contact, and when I tried to reach out, he simply smiled faintly and said, "I need some time." I told myself it was temporary, that he just needed a night to process, that everything would be okay. But deep down I felt a growing unease, a realization that maybe, just maybe, I had said too much, revealed too much of my own doubts and impatience. Days passed and the silence between us grew heavier. I called, texted, even sent little notes hoping to draw him back, but each time the response was polite, detached, almost clinical. He wasn't angry, not really. He wasn't shouting or blaming me. He had simply shifted into a place where I couldn't reach him, a quiet boundary I had unknowingly crossed. And then I heard it, the news that would crush me completely. Mark had found someone else. I don't know how or when, but it happened while I was still convinced that I had time to fix things, to convince him to stay. I imagined us talking it out, reconciling, and laughing at my foolish words. I imagined that he would forgive me, that our years together meant more than my moment of doubt. But reality hit me like a punch to the chest. He had moved on. Without me. And I had no one to blame but myself. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed that evening, staring at my phone, unwilling to text him, unwilling to call, unable to accept that this was real. I felt hollow, stripped of the certainty I had once held about love and loyalty. Every memory of us together now felt tainted by my own actions. I could still see his calm face, the way he listened to my complaints without interruption, the way he tried to reassure me even as I doubted him. And yet, I had pushed him away anyway, and now it was too late. I replay the conversation over and over in my head. The exact words I had used, the tone I had thought was harmless, every little comment that revealed impatience or dissatisfaction, every careless laugh. I realized now that I had underestimated him, underestimated his patience, his boundaries, and the quiet strength that had always been there. I had assumed he would forgive me endlessly, that my whims and doubts were small in the grand scheme of things. I was wrong, and now the consequences were unavoidable. The irony, of course, is that I never truly questioned his feelings until it was too late. I never realized how much he had invested in us, how much he had compromised, how much he had tolerated. And in a moment of insecurity, I gave up on all of it. I told him we should break up, and instead of begging, instead of chasing after me, he quietly accepted my decision. He left and he rebuilt his life without me.